Hi, it's Ed Cohen in San Diego, and this again is Global TV Network. So, Global TV is an outgrowth of the Global HR Business Conferences, and I'm really pleased to introduce Josue Briseno, who's in the Seattle area, and he's the HR Director for the Americas for an open source software company, which he's going to tell us all about, called SUSE. SUSE, which I had never heard about before, but I've seen all the PR going on right now about their virtual conference coming up. And it's all about developers. So let's welcome Josue. Hi.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Ed. Thanks for having me today. It's a pleasure to
Yeah,
be here.
yeah. The last time we talked, I think you were at our Seattle meeting a couple of years ago. I think it was at the Gates Foundation. Um,
Exactly. It's
yeah,
been it's been a while ago since we spoke face to face.
yeah, that's great. Okay, so my friend, tell us about your company and about your job.
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Josue Briseno. I'm the HR director for the Americas. I lead the people agenda, and it's been a fantastic experience working at SUSE. SUSE is a software organization, open stack, open source, and we have operations across the globe. And we are coincidentally enough reaching our 28th anniversary today. So we are celebrating SUSE.
So how many outsourced developers and engineers do you have?
Well, on a global basis, we are close to 3,000 employees. So we continue growing organically, inorganically, and that's the business strategy that we are managing right now.
Are most of these people work from home?
Yeah, for the most part, I would say before the pandemic, 60% of our workforce work from home. Now, most of them are virtual.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of networking then, and a lot of collaboration using Zoom or WebEx or some other kind of technology, right?
Right. Yeah. With this pandemic, I think that the company had a lot of advantages in terms of business. So yes, we are partnering with different IT organizations. We are helping them manage all the infrastructure and also servers, Linux, cloud. So we are helping large organizations on a global basis to uh, embrace change and helping them with the transformation as well.
Yeah. So I want to be sure you meet Mark Colo, and also Jack Jempel is in the background. Mark Colo and I have been friends for a few years. He's in Southern California, although it looks like he's in South Island, New Zealand. But he's a VP with a transportation logistics company called Chipman. But more so, Mark is a founding director of what's become our favorite charity, findcures.org. Mark, say hi and introduce yourself briefly.
Yeah, Ed's right. I'm usually in exotic places around the globe, sometime or another. Wish I was there right now, somewhere. I love New Zealand, one of my favorite countries. But a little bit about, just real in a brief capsule here to give you an idea about our foundation. About 4 years ago, there were 4 founders that started our foundation. And each one of us has a neurological condition that we have to deal with. Most of them are chronic diseases. I have Parkinson's. I've had that for 14 years. And we just got together and said, we should do something about these chronic neurological diseases. And we got together, we built a strategy, formed our company, which is a 501c3 organization. And we're dedicated to 2 things. The first thing is to find cures for these diseases, so we fund research. Second is to bring hope to people that get these diseases, because it's a very, very large pill to swallow when you're diagnosed with a chronic illness. that's kind of a little bit about what we are. We have a website at findcures.org, and you're welcome to visit that to learn a little bit more about us. So thank
Oh,
you.
great. Well, thank you. Okay, so your specialty is like biopharma. Of course, you do business with anybody, but you're specializing in doctors and medical devices because of your unique position and your insight of the need to transport safely and securely very, very valuable medical stuff. Is that correct?
That's correct. Part of my day job, in fact, my whole day job pretty much from 8 to 5 is working through an organization called Chipman Relocation Logistics. So they're my daytime employer. After 5 o'clock, I turn into a Tasmanian devil and just dig in full-heartedly into the foundation. But Chipman is a large logistics company. We have 10 locations in the western region, mostly on the West Coast. And we do all kinds of different service lines. But the one that I'm dearest to and most interested in is moving research laboratories from all points in the country and sometimes abroad in other countries. So I help these scientists who are looking for the next cure for these diseases. I help them get their research laboratory moved, all of their items in the laboratory, their staff. And part of that gets tricky is the biospecimens that they have. They have specimens that they've collected for their whole career, and they can't afford to have the temperature in the specialized trailers we use to move these biospecimens. They can't afford to have the temperature go up or down more than 3 degrees, or it will compromise their samples. So that's the excitement for me, is to get an opportunity to move these scientists who are world-renowned experts and just have some really fascinating research that they do. I get to meet these people one-on-one and help them settle into their new laboratory, their new location.
So you've become a specialist in clean and safe.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Josue, about COVID and its impact on your job and impact on the people that you're managing across the Americas. So what a mess, huh? How are you dealing? Are you dealing with the people who are working from home any differently than you would internally?
Well, there are different things happening right now, and there are so many moving parts as well. So, the health and safety of our people is not our number one priority. So a business continuity committee was assembled to meet regularly and report weekly on the health of our employees. And this has been a current global practice for our organization. So we remained committed to our employees, and flexibility is one of those moving parts that I mentioned before. So having employees working from home, or actually some employees now are coming back to our offices to work there. But again, flexibility is one of the instrumental elements here. So with this situation improving in some locations, we have employees, we have site leaders facilitating that for our employees. In terms of travel, we are having a very cautious approach here. So although travel is restricted, we encourage our employees to, make the right decisions when it's needed. But for the most part, we encourage them to have virtual conversations, virtual meetings as possible. So again, health and safety of our employees remains our number one priority.
Josue, are you able to manage the people the same way as you would if they were down the hall?
Well, with technology, I would say yes. We have the luxury that we are properly equipped. We have lots of IT resources handy so that we can manage people either way, virtually or on site. But to your question, yes, I think that we can manage them equally. And that's one of the other moving parts of one of the other promises that we have to our employees to manage talent equally. So let me spell out in greater detail about how we are managing talent at SUSE.
Yeah.
So in order to simplify, modernize, and accelerate our business, everybody gravitates around our set of guiding principles. Our guiding principles are our shared foundation, which includes our mission, the vision, strategic levers, which people is the number one priority, our values. Those have been designed by our employees and for our employees with all consistent themes. The other component to our guiding principles is the SUSE Diamond. So with the SUSE Diamond, we want to integrate our customers, employees, partners, and the community. So that's how we are aligning our talent management efforts using those guiding principles.
Interesting. And what about compensation and benefits? This must be a strange new world for you, but relative to work from home.
Yeah, we have observed an increasing stress, I would say, for the overall market right now. Even that we have this pandemic, the economy is struggling, but I can see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I would say in terms of how we are managing compensation and benefits at SUSE, it's reassuring. So we haven't had that situation where we need to or terminate or put on hold or reduce the schedules for employees. It's all the opposite way. So I would say that for compensation and benefits, we are still revamping, and we have a pretty solid structure internally. We have a very competitive package for employees. And this is not only for US employees. I'm talking about all the global compensation and benefit strategy here. But yeah, this is something that we need to take into consideration as one of the other moving parts, as I mentioned before, because we need to remain competitive. And every day we are working on what we can improve and how we can improve. So right now we are having internal conversations in how we can upgrade our benefits in order to remain even more competitive.
Yeah. So how do you and how have you been able to motivate talent, motivate people to do more, do better? Not like you're holding fire to their feet, of course not. But in this day and age with COVID and work from home, accelerating issues. How are you managing? How are you managing people's productivity, or are you more hands off at this time?
Well, let me talk about our people levers. We have several people levers, and let me mention some of them. We have organization lever, diversity and inclusion, engagement, recognition, talent, rewards, recruitment, HR technology, and obviously our HR team lever. So how we are motivating our current workforce, there are a couple of things that we are currently doing for them. So in terms of D&I, we continue having conversations in terms of assembling employee resource groups across the globe so that we can treat them equally. And there are a couple of initiatives going on around that. So also from an HR perspective, we have just launched another HR initiative, which has been a successful initiative. This is called HR Talks. So with HR Talks, we are basically giving them 60 minutes for them to voice their concerns and raise any other observations, feedback in order to improve.
So is this a one-on-one with you, or is this in a group setting?
This is in a group setting. So each month we have 60 minutes for each of the countries that we have in the Americas to talk about them. Yeah, we don't have any presentation. We don't have any boring slides. We just open the forum, open the mic, and invite everybody to those conversations.
That sounds really cool. Sounds wonderful. And they're okay because it's recorded. So they're okay with doing that.
Exactly.
So that's because of the warm and comfy atmosphere you create.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the type of culture that we have at SUSE. This is an open stack organization, and we have open conversations the same way. So with this HR Talks initiative, we allow employees to come back to us with anything HR related or business related that it's appropriate to be discussed with a greater audience. But it's been very successful. So we have received tons of observations, tons of improvement feedback for internal processes, policies, and also feedback for our senior leaders. So again, we have a great culture here. We can talk across the board from the CEO down to the EA. So this is fantastic, and that's the type of initiatives that we have at SUSE, just to mention one.
So does that lead to an understanding or an uncovering of an opportunity for reskilling some people or some functions?
Absolutely, yeah. From a talent perspective, we continue working on leadership developments, leadership development opportunities. We have virtual workshops every month. We continue upgrading our mentoring program and development. We have a development panel inclusion in place as well. So there are different initiatives, just to mention those, but yeah, that's what we are currently doing, and it's been very successful.
Wow, this is great. So are you hiring new people?
Yes, we are actively hiring people across the globe. If you want to take a look at our website, this is SUSE.com, and you will see our career opportunities. So yeah, I encourage everybody to take a look.
So that's SUSE.com.
.com, yes.
Yeah, great. So are most of the employees outside the US?
Well, as I said before, there are close to 3,000 employees on a global basis. And for the Americas, we are reaching 500 employees across the Americas.
Yeah, boy, that's interesting. Okay, so in Europe, are people beginning to get together live? I wouldn't call it a conference, but live get together under social distancing rules?
Yeah, we have the same dynamic across the globe. So we are very cautious about how we allow our employees to go back to the office. There are specific offices that they are going back to normal, I would say, but with social distancing and with some other safety measures. But we have offices in EMEA and Asia Pacific that are mirroring our best practices, safety practices, same as in the Americas.
Yeah. So in the Americas, is your outside U.S. What's your biggest source of people? Is it Canada or Brazil or Mexico?
I would say after the US, we have Canada and Brazil, then Brazil. Yeah.
Yeah, not so much Mexico, not yet.
Not yet. We have an extensive partnership across the Latin America region, starting from Mexico down to Argentina, but corporate offices are based in Canada, US, and Brazil.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. In Rio or Sao Paulo?
Sao Paulo.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm looking at your notes here about employee experience. We've already touched on that about the nice feeling and the safe feeling, um, mental safety, I guess, that people can speak up and give commentary as well as take it. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
we allow our employees to voice their concerns and voice any idea. And we always invite them to have those open conversations with us. So again, we have a fantastic culture where we can talk to the CEO or any presidents across the globe on a heartbeat. So that's fostering our open conversations with everybody. And we conducted an employee survey starting this year. Actually, there have been 3 employee surveys been conducted so far, and our employee net promoter scores continue growing. So that speaks volume about the different HR initiatives that we are running across the globe, and employees have acknowledged all of those. So yeah, we continue working on those. There are different observations. We are translating those observations into action plans just to be very effective and continue with keep the momentum and gaining credibility from our employees. So that's the goal here.
So do you imagine yourself, as we all can tell here, this is not rehearsed, so it's a little organized, chaotic on purpose here to sponsor spontaneity here. So with that in mind, within your workforce and the open system that you have, open and safe system, that's your culture. If somebody has a problem, do they speak up or do they do it privately to you? And are you an enabler or do you see yourself as a policeman?
No. You know, HR has evolved drastically for the last 10 years, I would say. Um, that's probably the old school. When they talk to HR, they are afraid of, or they were afraid of, and they saw HR as a somebody policing them, and that's not the case. That's in the past. Right now, the strategy, the culture that we have at SUSE is, HR is an enabler for all employees. We foster communication. We have open conversations. So there are different HR business partners across the Americas where they can rely on in the case that they need to escalate any sensitive topic, or if they want to go straightforward and come back to me directly. That's an open door policy that we have. So yeah, I'm enabling all those conversations. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions, and we're going to get Mark into this, of course, too. But so if an employee comes up with an idea of doing something a little differently, do they talk to their direct supervisor or do they talk with you first?
Well, best practice internally is that they talk to their immediate managers, and probably they talk to the business unit leader first. Then, if this is progressing as expected, we can have some other leaders being involved in this project, and be one of those involved. So sometimes they come to me for coaching, for feedback, and I always provide the best practices and how we can uh, set all employees up for success. So that's a good practice that we have in place. But yeah, I would say this is a combination of both approaches. But for the most part, they talk first with their leaders, their functional leaders, and then in parallel, or then they go to one of our HR business partners or myself.
Yeah, cool. Mark Colo, this is pretty fascinating, isn't it?
That's wonderful that you have that kind of support for your employees. And there's all kinds of, I'm sure, a myriad of issues and problems that come up, during the course of a week or a month that you have to deal with when you're in an HR role. So I'm impressed that you support your employees to that degree.
Josue, to what extent do you and the company have a program for sourcing people who have some kind of disability?
Well, that's exactly one of the other big initiatives that we are working on, Ed. So in terms of recruiting and diversity and inclusion, we are rolling out a new recruitment model, which includes launching a diversity hiring program. So we just we want to tackle all the different groups that we have across the globe. So internally, we started with women in tech, with LGBT and some other groups. But right now, our scope is wider. So we want to tackle and we want to coach all of the different groups that we have currently. So we are using different platforms. We are talking to some other vendors to help us crystallize that recruitment initiative. But yeah, this is something that we are actively working right now, and that's part of our 2020 recruitment strategy.
Fantastic. It's pretty cool, Mark, huh?
Great. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So I see in your notes that you love graphology. So what does this mean, Josue? And especially in an age where there's computer. So how do you study graphology on a keyboard?
Well, let me go back a little bit. I've been exposed to graphology probably since 2007, and working across the Americas, I have learned how to best utilize graphology and apply graphology to human resources. So then I decided to study more about graphology, and I am actually a certified graphologist. And during my spare time, I run my own consultancy firm, which is hrcitizen.com. So, I have a special interest in integration of graphology or handwriting analysis for others into the HR strategy. So I want to help people understand their personalities, behaviors, patterns, emotional intelligence, and some other vocational orientation feedback. So ultimately, I just want to make sure that they are the right fit for a cultural job, group, or organization. So there are different methodologies, different techniques, schools. Just let me mention some of those. We have the scientific method. We have universal concepts, psychological deductions and interpretations, reinforcing method by Sandro, some symbology of space, colors, age traits, inductive graphology, transactional analysis, Sigmund Freud traits and methodology as well. And I mean, just to mention some of those schools, techniques, and methodologies, but I coach clients using innovative HR methods, as I referred before, including handwriting samples. This is a technique that knows no boundaries. So from a cultural perspective, geographically dispersed workforce, we can have and produce a more holistic view of potential candidates or future leaders. So yeah, that's how I've been doing graphology during my spare time.
Interesting. Mark, what do you think of that?
Well, I think if he were to analyze my signature or my writing, I think he'd probably toss me out.
There's not good, no bad here, Mark. We base our analysis on different factors. Let me just mention some of those.
Okay.
The slant, baseline, margins, spacing, the pressure, the size, the speed, zones, style and connecting strokes, and finally the signature. So we can analyze, we can interpret a lot of things about your personality, your behavior, trends, patterns, and some other components that we normally discuss at a private basis.
Yeah, well, with Parkinson's, there's a thing called resting tremor. And trying to write when you have an active resting tremor, and when you're in a stressful situation, especially, it just looks like scribble. You can't read the letters, you can't read any part of it. So I don't know if you've seen that before from a patient, but so there's other ways to measure, certainly, as you've mentioned, measure the quality of that candidate and their ability to perform in a particular role or position. So.
Yeah, and it's been very, very, very interesting how we have applied graphology to all the different HR processes. So, for instance, when hiring candidates, we can see some letters. We can see in the past, we used to have some applications being filled out by employees and then signing at the end. So that was the first information that we received from candidates. So before the interview, we know exactly who we were going to talk to. In terms of coaching, we also ask them for their permission for a sample. And then based on that sample, that's how we can interpret and analyze their handwriting analysis, and then come back with a coaching recommendation, with a coaching program. We can identify those strengths, weaknesses, and some other leadership factors so that we can help our people continue growing and working on those areas that need improvement. And also in terms of conducting investigations, in terms of managing employee relation issues, we have also obtained samples, statements, where we can validate what they have referred before. So that's been instrumental for the overall HR strategy and function. So it's been really interesting managing graphology with HR.
Josue, the culture of SUSE seems extraordinarily beautiful. Was it always this way, or has it evolved over time?
I think that it's been the same since I joined, and talking with leaders that have been here for 15 plus years, the culture still remains the same. However, we have a new leadership on board. We continue growing inorganically. So obviously the culture is evolving, but the essence is still there, which is probably our biggest competitive out there. So when we attract people, when we invite people to join us, culture is one of the biggest factors.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same in Europe, in Germany.
Exactly the same. Yeah, we have the same practices. We have weekly meetings with all my leadership fellows in EMEA and Asia Pacific, and we have exactly the same approach, the same practices, and we want to have exactly the same type of dynamics and culture.
So this sometimes could run counter to local traditions and cultures, correct?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Well, since we are a global organization, we need to localize some of those practices. So we enable conversations on a global basis, framing what the culture, what the dynamics, and what the expectations are. Because, as I mentioned before, we recently upgraded our SUSE values. And again, those were designed by our employees and for our employees. So in essence, we expect everybody to behave and live those values. So we are empowered, we are accountable, we are collaborative, we are passionate about our customers, and we are respectful and inclusive and also trustworthy, and all the time we act with integrity. So that's how I can summarize how we handle culture across the globe and what the expectations in terms of living our values is for every single employee.
Josue, this is just a beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing all this information. Mark, would you agree this is really unique?
I think it's great. I had one question for you. How do you reward and recognize employees from an intrinsic and an extrinsic viewpoint?
Well, in terms of recognizing our employees, we have different approaches here. We continue working on our reward strategy, but in terms of recognition, let me just mention some of those. We recently launched a recognition tool. So what we do is we have a online tool where we can recognize employees on the spot. So, we don't need economic recognition here to motivate our workforce. So what we do is we just go to the portal. We enter a few lines recognizing employees because of a great achievement or because a great discussion, great conversation, or great contributions. Then we submit that online, and then they receive that recognition. Their managers are CC'd, and on a quarterly basis, we recognize all our employees during our all hands call. So the CEO of the organization talks about our most relevant achievements during the last quarter. And from a people perspective, we put those pictures, those names in there, right? Because one of the things that we do is we don't manage people by the numbers. We manage people by names. So there's a huge difference when you present quarterly results, graphics, numbers, versus complementing all of that with pictures, with names, with achievements, with recognition. So that's exactly what we are doing at SUSE, and that's how we recognize our people.
That's great.
Yeah, what a winner. So thanks very much for being our guest today, Mark. And Josue, this has really been a trip into the new now and how companies, in my view, should operate. And especially in a time of duty to care, not duty of care, but duty to care, how companies can help people grow and develop. Wouldn't you agree, Mark?
I would. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this has been great. So Josue, please come back, join another conversation sometime, and wish you well. Mark, again, thank you for participating. And this is Ed in San Diego signing off. This is the Global TV Network.